a relatively new experience for me. Speaking to an esteemed group of colleagues from veterinary colleges across the country without being able to see you all in a room. But welcome to our AVAP Communications webinar. I'm Kevin Dorr, Director of Public Affairs and Communications for the College of Veterinary Medicine at Purdue University. And it's an honor to greet you and be able to share with you today about a topic and a field that's been a really important part of my life for a long time. I'll just put it that way. It's also a great honor to be able to speak to you as on behalf of our team as a recipient of the 2020 AAVMC Communications Award. And I do want to let you know that there is an actual crystal obelisk that comes with that, which was sent to me. So we're honored to possess this, and very thankful to the Association of American Veterinary Medical Colleges for this award. And it's just a great honor to receive it on behalf of our team, and it's really a team accomplishment. But also a great honor to receive that from the AAVMC and in conjunction with the role of the Association of Veterinary Advancement Professionals, a group that's been really important in my professional career. I value all of the members of the association and appreciate all the work that has been done over the years by the association to help all of us who are in advancement roles at colleges of veterinary medicine across the country. And a tip of the hat to Jeff Douglas at the AAVMC for all he has done over the years. I remember years ago when he was presenting at a meeting and encouraging that the association, which was then primarily fundraising oriented, expand to involve communications and alumni relations. And that was a pivotal moment in the history of the AVAP. And now it's exciting that the AVAP and AAVMC have come together to continue to provide for the future of the Association of Veterinary Advancement Professionals. So it's, again, an honor to speak to all of you today. And I also want to credit our college administration for all of their support, which really is pivotal to our success. They believe in the work that we do and do everything they can to support us. And that just means a lot and is a big part of the success that we'll be talking about today. And then also our faculty, staff, students, alumni, clients, all of the people who are the basis for the great stories that we have to tell and share. In particular, I want to thank our communications team and introduce the other members of the team. I'm not going to bother going around the horn, so to speak, because each of them will have an opportunity to speak as part of this presentation. But in addition to myself, we have an amazing assistant director, Allison Carey, who does all kinds of things, is really my right-hand person, and a big part of that is her amazing design work. We also do have a position for a communications and marketing manager for our hospital and animal disease diagnostic lab that was filled by Lauren Bruce, and a lot of her work figured into the accomplishments that we received the award for. But she relocated at the end of 2019, so she is not with us now, but definitely contributed to the success of our communications efforts over the past year. Then we have an amazing web team led by Rhett Fraser, Director of Web Communications, who will be speaking to you shortly, and we'll have a lot of great things to share. Has done an amazing job leading our digital communications effort, and Osmar Lopez, our senior web developer, is a big part of the success of what we've done in terms of digital communications. Then a special thanks as well to Susan Shufaradou, who goes by Susan X for obvious reasons. And she's really allowing us to succeed at this Zoom presentation today by being our host and guiding us through this, and also as an important part of our communications team because of all she does to help us with getting the word out to key stakeholders especially our alumni. And so she also will share in a little bit. And we have interns who are an important part of what we are able to put out. We have a communications intern, and the person who fulfilled that role in 2019 was Maya Sanaba, who was just amazing and delight to work with, and since graduated. And then we have a new one who's serving us now. And then we also have social media interns, which Wright has recruited to help with the social media effort. So that's our team, and on with the show. When I think about 2019, to me, it was a year of making the most of opportunities and capitalizing on some really significant twin milestones here at Purdue University. The university celebrated its sesquicentennial and came up with a whole branding program for that, keyed around the immortal words of Neil Armstrong, our alumnus, who talked about the small step for mankind that was really a giant leap. So Purdue's theme for the sesquicentennial was 150 years of giant leaps, and we had the opportunity to key into that and make that work for us as a college, as we also celebrated our 60th anniversary and talked about 60 years of Purdue veterinary medicine. So that allowed us to make a splash in a variety of ways, including with a large building banner that was on the east side of Lynn Hall, the home of our College of Veterinary Medicine at Purdue University. This allowed us to promote both the sesquicentennial and our 60th anniversary. Got a lot of attention. It was interesting that it really inspired a lot of pride just on our internal audience of faculty, staff, and students, and also was prominent and appreciated and remarked about by people across campus, anybody who really drove by our building, which is on one of the main arterials around the Purdue University campus. We also keyed off of the anniversary themes for our other communications. Allison did an amazing job on our annual report publication, which we do in print as well as distributing electronically. Beautiful cover design, and the administration kindly gave us a little additional budget money so we could do a really nice cover design. And Allison just did amazing layouts for the variety of stories that we put in that publication, celebrating 60 years of PVM and our part of the history of Purdue University since it was founded in 1869. And then we had a lot of stories that we featured throughout the year through our other communications vehicles, including our Vet Gazette, which I'll talk a little more about how that figures into what we do from week to week to get news and information about our college out. But we just had a lot of special opportunities to tell stories about the college because of the anniversary theme that we had. Then the university did a variety of things that they facilitated colleges participating in as part of the sesquicentennial. So among those were these footprint videos, footprints, again, from that theme of 150 years of giant leaps, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. So they were looking for suggestions for students, faculty, who could talk about their giant leaps. And so one of the people we were able to facilitate one of these footprints videos about was my boss and the Associate Dean for Engagement here at the College of Veterinary Medicine, Dr. Sandy San Miguel, who is amazing, has a lot of really amazing programs, and definitely qualifies as somebody who has made giant leaps in her profession. The university also was looking for opportunities to spotlight research that help tell the university's story about its prominence as an institution that has had 150 years of giant leaps. So we were able to put forward some faculty because of the research they're doing that's prominent and meaningful and reaches a broad audience, including the work of Dr. Maggie O'Hare in our Department of Comparative Pathobiology, who is an expert on the human-animal bond and is doing some really groundbreaking research on the effects of service dogs on veterans with PTSD. And So the university did a news release about her work and also a video. And assuming that we are able to get this PowerPoint distributed, I have links to the videos in the notes section of the PowerPoint, thanks to the work Allison did to help me with that. And I'm not going to play all these today because I know trying to show videos in a Zoom meeting can be a challenging adventure, but you will have access to those from the PowerPoint. But there were short videos that were done about different aspects of the research underway at the university and its impact. And so Dr. O'Hare was featured in one of those. And then the emphasis that the university put on her research also allowed us to garner some additional significant exposure, such as this story, which was broadcast on the CBS Evening News. They sent a crew here. This little scene shows part of what was in the CBS News report about Dr. O'Hare and her team's research on this topic. Another area that the university focused on involved research that we're doing on equine asthma. And this also got a lot of attention and featured the research being done by one of our premier large animal faculty, Dr. Laurent Coutil, who's a professor of large animal internal medicine. And this also was featured in a video that wound up running on the Big Ten Network. And for those of you who may have forgotten, because of the pandemic, there is such a thing as the Big Ten, and we are going to start playing football here in another few weeks. But in 2019, Big Ten sports was huge, and the Big Ten Network does have additional programming beyond sports programming, so it's great to get this on the Big Ten Network. The signature video for the university that they launched as part of the sesquicentennial is this video I'm going to play for you now. And I think it's a really well done video for the university, but thankfully we also were able to have a couple of scenes in there that reminded people that there is a College of Veterinary Medicine here. So I'm going to play this for you. I think it's fun, and see if you can see where in the video our college is represented.
150 years of giant leaps, giant progress, giant dreams, the culmination of small steps, hard work and calculated risks, pioneers flying across oceans, astronauts stepping foot on the moon. Because that's what we do. We run the numbers and we're not afraid to jump. We are Purdue University, and our eyes are set on the future, ready to take on the world's most pressing challenges. With 150 years worth of footprints behind us that prove, whatever we pursue, we will be the ones who take the next giant leap.
So hopefully you saw this scene in that video, and you know, everything matters, right, in some way. So as the university was working on this video, we had the opportunity to suggest that maybe they could do something as part of the video that showed horses running in a pasture and then running on our high-speed equine treadmill, which is one of the tools that Dr. Coutil uses in his research on equine asthma and respiratory issues in performance horses, equine athletes. And it all worked out, and that scene was one of the ones that people remarked about as being noteworthy in the 150 Giant Leaps campaign. Well, a lot of opportunities to do a lot of cool things. How did we try to capitalize on this and make it all work for us? So I'm just going to kind of go through a few details about how we've approached trying to make the most of opportunities, and it involves a combination of strategy and spontaneity. ability to respond to opportunities as they come without losing sight of your overall focus and efforts and projects that you're doing as communicators. So we sought to capitalize on the opportunities that we were presented with in 2019, and as the sports world would say, take what the defense gives you. So we all have things we're trying to get done, projects, deadlines, but we need to just be always on the lookout for opportunities, and how do we expand our impact, our influence, our ability to communicate meaningfully with our stakeholders. So the events we had related to the 60th anniversary of our college, and Purdue's anniversary gave us some fun stories to tell, from our 60th birthday party to an event that Susan organized that was really neat, that focused on the history of the college over 6 decades, and trivia. That was a fun night, evening event that was held as part of our annual Purdue Veterinary Conference, which last year we did in person in 2019. Because as referenced on the earlier slides, 2019 was the good old days. I wouldn't have thought in a year we could be talking about good old days. It was just a year ago, but it sure seems that way, doesn't it, with everything that's changed since then. And then we also try to capitalize on opportunities by just taking things that we need to do every day, every week, and finding the ways to maximize how those activities can generate the greatest impact. So we've utilized our responsibility that we have for producing a weekly newsletter for our internal audience of faculty, staff, and students in our college as a way of generating fresh content consistently. We use the newsletter as really a content production engine, and then find ways to distribute that way beyond the walls of our college. So by constantly pushing out content, we are able to take the stories we create for our weekly newsletter and immediately make them available to the rest of the world through our PVM newsroom. It's a process that consistently generates fresh, newsworthy content that ends up on our website. So this is just a scene from the access point on our main homepage to our newsroom. And also here's an example of one of the stories you would be able to see if you went to a newsroom and scrolled through the news, through the items that are on the newsroom. The other importance of what we do is being audience-centric. So it's important that we can meet people where they are, not demand that they conform their habits to our vehicles, but try to get our message to them in the ways that work for them. So that also involves knowing our audiences and then finding the right vehicles to use to reach them. So that's part of the game, is matching our audiences with our vehicles. And that's a fun picture from another amazing event that Susan planned in 2019, which was a faculty staff appreciation event. But our audiences are both internal, from faculty, staff, students, to the university community, as well as our external stakeholders, from our alumni to donors and other funders, clients of our hospital, prospective students, community, the public. And we try to match our audiences to the ways we have to get information to people. So our internal audience receives our weekly newsletter, but then a lot of the content for that gets repurposed through the alumni e-news publication that's done monthly, and Susan handles that. She'll be speaking a little later. Our PVM report publication is our main magazine. We do that in an online format, and then once a year we do a print publication. Lauren Bruce, who I mentioned, was our manager for marketing and communications for our hospital and animal disease diagnostic lab, started an email drip campaign called Newsprints that was very effective in reaching our clients. And then our online newsroom and our social media activities, which Wright will address in detail, allows us to reach the rest of the world, as well as people in those other stakeholder groups. So as part of getting content put together and trying to do the best job we can to share what we're doing, in addition to those specific communications vehicles, we do cooperate and collaborate with centrally supported services that we have available to us at the university. So we work with our news service on anything that we think is media news release worthy, and they've been great partners in helping us with that. That gives us access to their writers, and they help spread the word by distributing those news releases on our behalf. And then Purdue has a marketing and media operation, and they've been significantly helpful to us with specialty projects, as well as being the ones who are carrying out the workload associated with university-wide campaigns, initiatives, and messaging. So they were involved in a lot of, obviously, in the 150th anniversary campaign and branding, and we were able to plug into that in some ways that I've showed. Also, they developed a new Purdue brand, which launched in January, working with a consulting firm called Ology, and we then utilize that brand to carry that into everything we're doing for the college, so that we are significantly part of what the university is doing and properly branded in that way. And then we have the co-branding for our college. So that's another way that we collaborate and cooperate, and they support us, really. And then we had a specific project that we're just wrapping up now and implementing, which was the development of a new brand for our hospital, which now is being called the Purdue University Veterinary Hospital instead of the Veterinary Teaching Hospital. And that was all done in conjunction with the new Purdue brand. So that's another way that we receive support from the Central University. And then video production has been a really interesting challenge for us, because we don't have video production capability in-house at this point, but we have been able to get significant help from other areas of the university to put together videos as we have needed to have those done. And so this picture here is just one of the many stories that the news service helped put out for us. This is from this year, obviously, with the masking. And this was about changes that our hospital was making in light of the pandemic. Another key factor in trying to generate the best and most comprehensive content is just integrating well with our internal colleagues within our engagement unit. So we've talked about Susan and all she does with alumni relations and special events. And so she's a key partner in what we do. We work closely with our Office for Lifelong Learning, because our continuing education efforts are important to our alumni and other stakeholders. Development, obviously, with stories about giving and ways that people are impacting our college through their philanthropy. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, that office is really significant to what we do because of the importance of the value of diversity and inclusion in our college, and our desire to make sure that is reflected in what people are seeing, whether they're coming to our website or receiving a newsletter or magazine from us. And then engagement, we have some amazing programs that are connecting us with other veterinary colleges across the campus, and young people who are looking at future careers, maybe years down the road, and trying to influence the pool of people who are considering careers in veterinary medicine, and making that as broad and inclusive and diverse as possible. So what happened as a result of all of this that we did in the last, in 2019, which is the year that the award is for, so that's kind of what I focused on. We generated about 200 stories, which were shared out through both digital and print communications and on our website. 45 news releases garnered more than 2,300 media mentions and reached an estimated audience of 850 million worldwide. And the point of that really is not so much to say, look what we did, but just to encourage all of you. What you do is really important. And what you do on a given day may seem inconsequential. You put a story out, so what? But it makes an impact. And this is just one way of understanding what happens over time as we're faithful to do our jobs as communicators. We send our alumni e-news to about 3,000 alumni, and our open rates have averaged 25 to 30% on that. So that's another effective means that we were able to get the word out over the past year. The newsroom has close to 50,000 users. So you can see, compared to what we send out to alumni and what we put on the web, we're reaching a huge audience of people beyond what we could reach just through email and print publications by everything that's going on digitally that Wright will talk about. And that number of users for 2019 was nearly 20% more than 2018. The email drip campaign that I talked about facilitated 80,600 email engagements. And the average open rate for those emails was 17%. And that was specifically messaging for our hospital. So that was another result of all of those efforts. So the last thing I want to talk about are just some keys to making all this happen within your college. It's important to get buy-in, do something with encourage submissions from faculty and staff, and do something with them, collaborating with offices, as I've mentioned, on stories, just keeping alert to the great stories going on around you and developing the stories that will shine the spotlight on the people in your college, because that builds trust and support. And source check stories, because that's a way to show that you really care about the message and reputation of the people who are our sources for the great stories we want to tell. And we have a lot of good stories, so we need to tell them. Remembering the essentials of good storytelling, pulling people into a story and having quality writing that engages with the reader, remembering the impact of images, and ensuring that the whole picture that we convey in our communications is reflecting the values of the college, such as in the area of diversity and inclusion. Interns are a great potential help. Just remember, it's a two-way street and they need your help. It's rewarding to work with interns, realizing you can impart something to them that's going to advance their careers as future communicators. And then always put yourself in the shoes of your audience to try to make sure your story resonates. If you don't tell the story, who will? So this picture is of Taylor, one of our veterinary students, who may just seem like a typical student on her way to getting a degree as a doctor of veterinary medicine. But I had the opportunity to spend some time with her and learn her story and realize that this wasn't just another story about a veterinary student's adventure through veterinary school. She had a really unique way to inspire others. So we were able to develop the story about Taylor, deaf, becoming a veterinarian, and she's now practicing in Indiana. It was just a real blessing to meet her and to have a role in sharing that story that really has potential to be inspirational. So the world needs good stories. It's our privilege to bring them to light. And as we say at Purdue University with our new branding that I need to do due diligence to convey, every giant leap starts with one small step, maybe one simple sentence that tells an amazing story that's going to influence the reader, who's maybe the next veterinarian, veterinary nurse, donor to your college. So keep up the great work that you're doing, and thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Kevin. You're doing a great job for the team, that's for certain. The brains behind the operation. So now we're going to move on to Wright Frazier, who's going to talk a little bit more about our web presence and our social media presence, and we're going to let him share a little bit as well, Ben.
Hopefully everybody can hear me and see my screen. Thank you all for.
Not see your screen.
You do not. How about now?
Yes.
Hoorah. All right, so hello everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. I would like to take some time and talk about our digital strategy that we use to get out all the things Kevin has been talking about. But first, the obligatory introduction. I am Wright Frazier, the Director of Web Communications for Purdue Veterinary Medicine, and Osmar Lopez is with us as well, and he'll be speaking after me, and he's our Senior Web Developer. And we're along with a couple of interns, the Purdue Veterinary Medicine web team, which really means we build, maintain, patch, band-aid, and analyze all of PUCVM's websites, its web traffic, social media spaces, etc. I like to think of us honestly as kind of the bullhorn that shouts out all the great content that Kevin and Allison come up with for our college. And as a group, we've put in a lot of time and effort getting to where we are today to reach really quite broad audiences. But to give some perspective to that, I'd really like to look back at how we and our digital strategy have evolved over the past few years. And prior to 2015, when all of us started coming together, we saw that our websites were really built for an internal audience. And our digital strategy, such as it was can really be summed up as put it out there and somebody will find it. And because of that kind of mishmash approach, large parts of our websites were just really, really unreachable. They weren't connected with each other. Further, we had upwards of 200 links on our homepage at times. And then to top it all off, our site was pretty stagnant, with updates being really infrequent and depending on individuals showing interest in making some sort of contribution in their one small little segment. So all of this together meant that our websites were completely dependent on search to be found, period. Search engines use them at all, but they were really poorly search engine optimized. And then from a social media perspective, we weren't really engaged at all. We had our spaces claimed, which was great, but we weren't doing a lot more than randomly posting things when someone remembered to do it. Which, to put it into numbers, since I like numbers, in 2014, we had just under 200,000 users visit our website, and another 100 to 200,000 or so reach us, or that we reach via social media, which isn't bad, but we could do a lot better, and we knew it. Which is why in 2015, we decided to change. And we did that first by adopting a completely new design from Purdue's central marketing organization, Marketing and Media. The design was nice, and it was really nice, and it gave us a brand to work with. But the real benefit of it was using it as leverage to start changing things across the board. For instance, like we cut 2/3 of the links off of our homepage. And then we started reorganizing content and strictly enforcing best practices across the board. For example, we mandated that every page on our site that got updated now include quality metadata on it, as well as a path to get to it. Further, that any links that got used had to be contextual, so no more click here's. Then we also went after the link farms, killing them all off. And then we started enforcing proper image usage with quality alternate text to open up a new realm of search for us. And then we got really strict about enforcing ADA accessibility for PDFs so that we could avoid getting sued, but also so we could stifle their usage. Because no one enjoys spending an afternoon making a PDF ADA compliant, and we had just way, way too many of them out there on the web. And then we made it all stick by having a quality assurance check in place, where if someone wants something to go live on our website, we, the web team, have to approve it. And that's all nice, and it's really good to do, but what really turned the corner is something Kevin mentioned earlier, and that was the advent of our first iteration of the PVM newsroom. Every week we were producing all this content and emailing it out to over 1,000 people, but then it'd just go into an internal archive. But with a little tweaking from Kevin and Allison, those internal stories then became suitable for the public, which was the solution to our stagnation problem, since we're now putting up 4 to 7 brand new high quality web pages every week. And the results were immediate. And our overall web traffic for all of Purdue Vet Med jumped by 25% in 2015 compared to 2014 because of this fresh new content. And we even though we weren't doing much on the social media side yet, we still saw a social media acquisition jump of 135%. So all in all, I must say, is kind of a big win. And it worked pretty well for the next couple of years. Our website traffic continued to grow steadily at 10 to 15% every year in every metric. So users, new users, sessions, page views, all of it. But in 2018, after Osmar and Lauren joined us, we decided to take a more strategic approach to our digital world. So we started off by identifying what we wanted to do. And those things included increasing our hospital caseload, working on student recruitment, promoting our research mission, and some other things. And this in turn let us define our audiences that we wanted to reach. So the animal owning public, potential students, alumni and donors, administration and faculty at peer institutions. But the question was, how do we do it? And we already had so much of this great content being produced by Kevin, Allison, and now Lauren, but we just needed to do more with it and be more efficient to, as Kevin liked to say, get more blood out of the turnip. So first, we changed how we operated as a team and playing more to our strengths. Our web team is only 2 people full-time, and we have a lot of demands. So we couldn't afford to spend a lot of time on busy work. So Osmar focused on the web development side and training side, while I focused on data analysis, social media management, and strategy. But we also started looking for better tools to make our weekly grind of producing the Vet Gazette more efficient for everyone. Because at the time, it was taking all of us to get this thing built and out the door. And that made it really expensive. And we'd been doing it that way for years, but we really needed a smarter approach. So Osmar built a new iteration of the newsroom using WordPress, and it gave us a lot of new features that we really wanted. But more importantly, it didn't require the web team to be actively involved on a weekly basis. So Allison took full control of it in terms of building stories, assembling the newsletter, everything. And traffic immediately jumped by 70% in 2018, with 57,000 visits from 40,000 users in that year alone. Which then, for us on the web team, freed up a lot of time, and we're able to step back and take stock of what we were doing. So first, we looked at our websites and identified our biggest vulnerabilities, namely that we honestly had pretty poor usability, meaning our websites were just kind of hard to use. We also had become actually overly dependent on search as a source of our web traffic. And since Google is constantly changing, we needed to get ahead of that in case a change down the road spelled trouble for us. So to address this first vulnerability, we needed to change a lot about our sites, because usability is hard to get right, but really easy to screw up. Fortunately, Osmar is pretty great at it and came up with some really clever ways to help people find what they wanted, as well as to encourage them to explore further and take some specific actions when and where we wanted them to take them. But we knew that these big changes were going to cause a lot of pushback internally, because change can be difficult, and this was going to be a lot of it, and is going to take a long time to do. So to move things where we needed them to go, we changed how we talked about the web. We stopped talking about it in meetings about how something feels or what we like or about opinions, and we started talking data. We work with scientists, and they love data, and they don't argue about it or argue with it nearly as much as they will when it comes to matters of opinion. So we gave them data all day long. Anytime there was a meeting and we could work in data, we did. And this let us flip the conversation from what someone likes to what works. Then, to address our second objective of diversifying our web traffic, we needed a new social media approach. But we couldn't just plow into it. We needed to do it right. So we started off by defining what our objectives would be. And those were increasing web traffic from social media, bringing in more hospital cases, promoting our academic programs, increasing attendance at our events, promoting our research, and some other stuff. Fortunately, we had already defined our audiences, so we knew who we wanted to go after. But then, since this was all new and we love data and have been preaching data, we also had to decide how we're going to measure it. So we picked some benchmarks, and we started logging a lot of data. Then we started experimenting in small campaigns to test things out, looking at like the number of posts per day or per week and how frequent we could make them in those time frames, as well as posting at different times. And then also making different types of posts and experimenting with those. So like image and text posts, multiple images and text, link and text, videos, or sharing content from others. Like, does it originate from us as using someone else's content, or just being a true share, to find out what would work. And along the way, we kept analyzing and measure, looking at where we were reaching the audiences we were after, and what types of content they were most likely to engage with. This led us to figuring out how often and what time of day we needed to make a post, the best types of content we could share to make specific objectives happen, like eliciting a particular action with a post or just getting more engagement with it. Ultimately, what offered the best return on investment for us, since we're a small team and our budgets have always been really tight. But this new strategic approach has really paid off for us. And our web traffic in 2019 was 84% higher than it was in 2019 is 84% higher than 2014. And in the years in between, we've continued that annual double-digit growth in every single metric. Then our newsroom has performed even better. It's grown by 300% compared to where it was at when we started. And this year alone, it's up 39% over where it was in the same time frame as last year. But our social media efforts are where things have really, really paid off. In 2018, when we started this push, we had approximately 11,000 total followers on our benchmark platforms. And now we're over 41,000 and growing, which is a 270% increase. Further this year, we're on track to reach 5 million people, which will be a 500% increase over where we're at when we started truly measuring in 2018. But at the center of all of this is our newsroom. And it's the heart of our SEO efforts and our social media strategy both. It's all that fresh new content that we put up every week. And it is a lot of work to put out, but it really does lift up absolutely everything else we do digitally to promote our college. So before I turn it over to Osmar for a closer look at the PVM newsroom, if you have any questions, please, by all means, feel free to email me. You can reach me at wsfrazier@purdue.edu or at vetwebteam@purdue.edu, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or offer any advice or anything like that. And thank you all very much.
Okay. So as Wright mentioned, my name is Osmar Lopez, and I am the senior web developer for the college. Wright, are you able to see my screen, the PowerPoint?
No.
No, okay. And what about now?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So as Wright was kind of letting you guys know, our newsroom is powered by WordPress. In the days of old, we had to do a lot of the work manually. It was always, I mean, it still is a group effort, but it used to take a lot of our time from us as the developers and also the writers, and the whole team had to be a part of making, every story, creating every story, posting it out to our different areas, creating our weekly Vet Gazette. So it was this massive effort that made us want to streamline the whole process and simplify everything we did. And we were able to do that with WordPress. The good thing about WordPress, it's free, it's open source, and it's a very good content management system that offers a lot of flexibility that you can do by coding, but also offers a lot of free and paid for widgets that you can install yourselves, even if you don't have a full developer like we do. So it really is easy to get set up from the ground running, even without the full developer's help. We use WordPress as our central hub, where we put in all of our stories, all of our content, and then WordPress works its magic. The way we have it set up is so that each story we tag with an individual category, and then based off that category, it actually feeds the pages where it needs to go. For example, if we have a story about our hospital, we would put it into WordPress all in one place, and then it would automatically add it to our college newsroom, and then it would also add it to the homepage of our hospital news page, because it would know this is hospital related news and the appropriate audience gets that story. And you can also narrow it down by category tags, and you can get as specific as you want to an individual person or to a department. The other tool that we use for generating our newsletter is MailPoet. It is a WordPress plugin. There is a free version, and we actually do use the free version and a paid version. The paid version offers being able to see more analytic rates, but it basically enables us to do newsletter creation without having to use code. So before, where it would take, Wright and I a whole bunch of time typing up all the HTML, CSS, formatting every single newsletter to be responsive in HTML email format. Now we've actually enabled Allison. Actually, she's the one that takes care of this. We've enabled Allison to be able to create the newsroom or to create the newsletter all from one spot, and she's able to pull in stories that she's already put into the WordPress site, and it all automatically feeds it in there, and she's able to send it out through that plugin as well. And the last piece that we use with WordPress is we use all our WordPress links to feed our social media. So everything that we create, all the stories that go into WordPress, we always share them out with social media, and then we are able to link back to those links so that our audiences can reach them across all the multiple platforms. I think the best part about the newsroom is the fact that once you set it up, it enables even a small department to be able to produce results such as the ones that that we've been sharing, and it's free. So there's really not that much entry to barrier. So if you guys have any questions about WordPress or how you can set it up, feel free to reach out to me, or you can send an email to our group here, and we will gladly answer any more questions. Okay, and now I think I'm going to pass it on back to, is it Allison who's next or Kevin?
Yeah, next will be Allison. I'll let
Okay.
her introduce herself.
Hey, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Allison. I'm the Assistant Director of Communications for the college. And I just wanted to speak a little bit on branding. I do a lot of the graphic design for the college and also serve as a key person who implements the brand for our college as a member of the university's communicators. So kind of, I don't know about you guys, but 2020 has been 5 years in one, so it's hard to think back to 2019. But working with our web team and Kevin and the university at large and our hospital marketing manager, we really tried to, dial down on our branding in the last couple of years and focus on consistency, look, feel, sound, our voice for the college, how it reflects on the university, and really engaging by using authentic photography and showing the diverse programs and people we have here at the college. And, as a veterinary college, we're unique from a lot of the colleges on campus, whereas our audience is alumni and donors, current prospective students, but also clients of the hospital who may have no previous, ties to the university. So really just trying to keep our audience, diverse audience in mind, who may have a lot of familiarity with us, may have no familiarity, and really just in trying to implement those efforts, just educating our internal users as to what our brand is and what our key objectives are in utilizing our brand. In 2019, we really, we spent a lot of time on our 60th anniversary and trying to figure out how we can make that special, also tying it into the university's greater 150th celebration, and making sure that we are key participants in that celebration, but not losing the effect of our 60th anniversary. And so that tying back into some of the visuals that Kevin talked about, we, to put in perspective, we worked with the university's marketing office on the banner on the side of our building, which doesn't look very large in a photo, but it was 50 feet wide. And we worked with them to make sure that we could tied together our 60th and 150th celebrations. And that was placed on the side of the building that was closest to our small animal hospital entrance. So that's why we had a small animal clinician focus on that one. And then, looking through all of our events, how can we make it a little more special? Our publications, how can we make them a little more special for our audience members? And for our annual publication, it doesn't really relay very well digitally, but for our cover of our annual publication, we did a die cut soft touch coating that made it a little more special, which you could see a little better in person versus digitally. But and then we really just worked in promoting our special events on the university's calendar, getting the word out university-wide, maybe engaging some more visitors to our site, visitors to our events and activities who maybe wouldn't have been involved normally. And then just trying to incorporate the 150th messaging, giant leaps. Sometimes, we don't have a direct, obvious connection to the different things that the university uses. Giant leaps, had very strong astronaut feel. So how can we relate that to veterinary medicine? But tying that in, giant leaps in veterinary medicine, we had the equine treadmill in the video, and that kind of helped tie those connections together, and just making sure that we were consistent in our messaging between both the university's initiatives and our own. And 2019, we also really kicked off the fundraising efforts for our new hospital that's underway. Currently estimated to be finished in 2022. And as part of that, we had a key group of donors that really helped us launch our efforts, and we call them our pace setters, kind of tying in the 150th Giant Leaps, and again, kind of that equine theme that really kind of tied it all together. Does anyone have any questions related to branding or anything that Kevin went over, or Ray or Osmar?
Thanks, Allison. We've had a couple questions come in. I think the first one I should probably explain. I know this is always a topic of conversation at AVAP, so I thought I'd address this one first. Matt Bryan from Cornell was asking about the structure of our office. And as you know, everybody's team is a little together in colleges. Here at Purdue, we do have a fundraising arm that's led by our Chief Development Officer, Tommy Finkbinder. I think a lot of you have heard. And they report up to our foundation here at Purdue. And then our communications team and my role as an alumni relations and special events actually are through the college. So that's where we get the resources from Purdue University. We report up through our Associate Dean of Engagement and up through the college arm of it. And it doesn't mean that we're completely disconnected, but you can see it gives us a little more freedom to be part of the overarching Mother Purdue. Because if you think about your clients, they just hear the word Purdue. They don't always say, oh, but you're in vet med. So I think that's kind of important to point out and why we're structured that way. And then I'm going to allow, I think there was a great question for Kevin from Martin, who's at Minnesota. And he had a question about budgeting and how we interact with these central services through our marketing and media department. So I'm going to let Kevin talk a little bit about that before I get going a little bit more specifically on our events and alumni communications.
Sure. A great question. I think the best way to respond is just in kind of summary narrative form. Our budget is pretty lean. We have our team, which we've identified, and a big part of what happens is basically through our efforts and the content we're creating. But there are some costs that we have covered through our budget. It's primarily print costs for the magazine that we talked about. And this is historical because this year is really different. So this year is a work in progress in terms of our current fiscal year, but normally we would have some funding available for photography and freelance writing and some other support, like we have a subscription for Libris for photo archiving. When it comes to video, that's something that we do have to pay for if we use video services at the university. And there's also been some changes in terms of the strategic direction of our marketing and media unit. So they're not really doing video that you can hire them to do, but we do have some other areas of the university that still we can hire to do a video. But when we can plug into something that the university is doing anyway and convince them that we have content that works really well for a project that they are doing as part of their efforts, then a video that meets that kind of situation, we don't have to pay for. So if they're doing something that's their project and we can kind of co-opt those resources by saying, hey, this is the story you really ought to tell, or this is an important part of that video you're putting together, then they will do it and they'll cover the cost. So we try to do as much of that as we can. And of course now more and more is being done with iPhones and other things. But we still do have periodic needs for a video that's professionally shot, something more than just somebody's going to catch it on an iPhone and stitch together on a desktop computer. And for that, when we have to get that kind of a service, we will have to contract for that. The other thing is there was a separate part of our budget that supported the efforts of the marketing and communications manager for the hospital and diagnostic lab, and that part of the budget was kind of co-funded with those units.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I know that we're nearing the 2 p.m. mark, so please know you're not going to offend us if you have to get off and run to your next thing. I will just be really brief about how all of this ties into our alumni relations. I'm the director of alumni relations and special events. Special events can be alumni events. They can be things like groundbreakings or ribbon cuttings for our college, but they can also be our student events and traditions as well as retirements. But I think what's overarching in our philosophy for my position is the fact that that every event is a marketing piece, and it's just like anything you would do from a newsletter standpoint or from an alumni, an e-news. You just need to know who your audience is and make sure that everything you do is on brand with what you're doing for your college and for the university as a whole, that it celebrates everything that we do, that we celebrate our heritage as Purdue Boilermakers, and that also it has that sort of nostalgia and makes people feel really good. I think it's Kippy Todd who always has a great quote that says that people don't remember what you said, but how you made them feel. And I think that's really what's important, whether it be our students who are becoming our alumni, our clients who we have just nurtured their fur babies, for our donors, for our own faculty, staff, and students to feel pride. One thing I did say a little bit earlier today is a lot of our communications to these different groups, specifically states, that everybody wants to be on the winning team. So the better we can make ourselves look, the more people are going to get behind us. And so we always try to stay aligned to our college's goals and strategic goals, as well as a lot of our culture in diversity and inclusion. And so that's really, really important. We also like to celebrate our students. They're the reason that we're here and one of the most important things that we do. Also, that our alumni just love everything about our students. We need to be diverse in our communications. We need to reach people where they are. Some people might be looking for what's the latest, greatest research you're doing. Some just want some fabulous pet tips. Some are looking for how to inspire future generations of veterinarians. So we try to keep all of our communications diverse and at least hitting one of the buckets, as we like to say around here, like which bucket is this going into? But really, we also want to promote ourselves as a resource. So whether it's promoting our lifelong learning, it's promoting wellness of our constituents, whether it be our clients or our veterinarians who are grappling with wellness issues, or perhaps, just enabling people to get together and reconnect with their classmates and with Purdue University. That's really where we where we stand and how my position sort of feeds into that. So I think that's pretty much what we wanted to talk about today. Sorry, we went over a little bit. I know we've got Jeff Douglas from ACVIM, and he wanted to say a few words. So we're going to let him.
I'm here, and I think I'm unmuted. So good
Yes.
afternoon, everyone. I simply wanted to congratulate the entire team at Purdue, not only on winning this award, but really for sharing a spectacular presentation. This was so information rich in so many ways, and there were so many elements of this that just demonstrated the kind of excellence that we envisioned years ago when we put this together. When I first went to work for the AAVMC in 2012, one of the first things I wanted to do was to get our board of directors to do something to recognize the critical role that communicators play in the advancement of academic veterinary medicine. And so you can see, and you know, that this is what, Kevin, the 7th year we've done this award. And we've only recently been able to introduce the fundraising award. In that time, we've seen the importance of communications go galactic. I don't need to tell you, as I often do, how terrifically important the work you are doing on behalf of your institutions is. And I would just say, keep on keeping on. These are tough times, but there's silver linings. One of the unintended consequences of this terrible circumstance we're all enduring with COVID-19 is, I think it is shining some light on the important role veterinary medicine plays in fostering and sustaining a healthy society. And I wanted to share one possible example of that. We won't be releasing this information until Friday, but I am going to release it to you all this afternoon. We've recently concluded the 2021 VMCAS application cycle, and we've been delighted to note that year over year admissions or applications for admission has rocketed 20%. That is astonishing. Our annual growth rate over the last several years has been in the vicinity of 6, maybe kissing 7%. We are 20% up. What's that all about? Is it because veterinary medicine is playing a more important role in people's lives? The companion animal bond is bigger in their point of view because they're spending more time with their pets? Is it because people are finally getting that veterinary medicine is a barrier between these devastating infectious zoonotic infections that can lead to pandemics that can seize the world? Who knows? We don't know. I think what we do know is that because of the terrific work our communication professionals are doing, this profession is moving forward. So I want to congratulate Purdue, and I want to thank you all for the terrific work you're doing.
Thank you, Jeff, and thanks for all your leadership through the AAVMC. Well, thanks to everybody who joined us. Is there anybody else had a question or anything they wanted to get in at the end?
You're welcome to unmute yourself at this point. We're just going to stay on a little bit longer. And of course, you can find all of our emails on our website. And we're happy to share whatever tricks and tools of the trade that we have. So, as you can tell, we're just kind of learning along the way. Just very lucky to have such a small and mighty team who works together toward this common goal. Jordan, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about your take on reaching an external audience, but kind of getting internal support for that. Did you find when you kind of were making that shift in the type of storytelling or the platforms, did you encounter any resistance internally from maybe faculty and staff who were very much used to kind of an internal messaging or reaching peers as opposed to kind of a lay audience or external audience? And how did you overcome that, I guess?
I'd say, kind of off the top of my head, I think it's a process and an evolution, maybe for a lack of a more descriptive term, and kind of meeting people where they are and bringing them along to understand that we have this huge audience to reach, as Jeff was alluding to, and we've got to communicate in ways that they get and they understand. And I think people get that and they're okay with it, but sometimes you have to help them to see that, because they are, you know, we work with people who are amazing experts who've studied years and years and have loads of experience. And they're very precise and have to be. I mean, if your animal's being treated by a veterinarian, you want them to be very precise. And to all those terms that they use that have more syllables and consonants and vowels than we want to have to deal with, they have a purpose and a place. And so I think we have to be respectful and kind of earn their respect and trust and support by showing respect and trust for them and their expertise, and then just working with them and helping them to see that we've got to communicate about this. It's going to reach a broad audience of people that includes a lot of folks who they're not dialed in on the terminology or and that sort of thing, and find that happy medium where they feel good about the content we put out, but we feel good that it resonates with the people we're trying to connect with. And some of that's relationship building. And we worked just with a faculty member who's doing COVID-19 vaccine research, which a lot of people are doing that, but I think he's probably going to be quite successful with it because he's a very esteemed faculty member with a lot of expertise in that area. But he was great to work with, and back and forth on taking, you know, his expertise and the terminology and converting it into something that the news service was going to say was okay to put into a news release. And there was some back and forth, but that's a relationship that has, you know, it's years in the making. And, but people will come along, but you may have to bring them and kind of earn their trust in the process.
Thank you.
From a digital perspective on us, yes and no. Initially, this is right, by the way. There was some resistance we faced in terms of how we approached websites, but when we started talking data and could use that data to show how what we were doing would help them bring in research dollars, the arguments ended. And people started listening. And that at the end of the day, research is funded by grants. They need money and we can help them raise money. So that made the sale a lot easier.
And I'll add, Jordan, that as time goes on, you'll find that once you get started with the first couple of people that are willing to participate, you'll find that you're going to start having people come and reach out to you and say, hey, so I saw what you did in terms of this news story and this website for this other person. How can I get it in on some of that?
Yeah.
So I think it gets a lot easier along the way once they're able to see their peers benefiting from the communication pieces and information that we do for them.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. There's a lot of, shall we say, competition. When you start showing somebody off, they realize, yeah, I went in on that too. That is a great point, Osmar.
I think also, you know, we have a new banner on the side of our building, and it's one of our veterinary nurses. And I think she was just flattered that the university had picked up just from some stock images we had. And she was just so flattered. So sometimes you don't have to go for the big wigs too. I think featuring some that aren't as high in the chain of command, sometimes you get a more real story and you get more genuine response to it. And I've found that that's kind of my go-to at this point too, is to make sure that we're celebrating all of the members of our college and of our hospital, and even the students as well. I think it's really kind of cool just to see those people sort of who would normally walk by you with their head down now feel really proud to be a part of our teams.
Thanks.
And that veterinary nurse is the one who was in that one slide I showed about the news release about the hospital's COVID-19 response. And a different image from the one that was used in the story was used on a banner that's basically the same size as the one that we did show from the 60th anniversary, but it's very striking as well. Sorry, I didn't include a picture of that banner, but yeah, that it's just all these things add up. They all work together to help us move forward. One other thought I had, the things that helped us in the 150th anniversary campaign for the university is they had 4 strategic themes, one of which was health and longevity. So that's where we were able to come in under that and get attention for some things that we figured they would want to showcase, that also then, of course, showcased our college.
Are there any other questions? Thanks, everybody. It's been so great to collaborate with you through all of these crazy changes we've been going through. We certainly are just completely honored to be recognized for our communications effort. As you can see, we have a small and mighty team, but we certainly work well together. But we certainly enjoy the support we get from our fellow colleagues at the other veterinary colleges. So if there's anything that you need from us, you know where to find us. And I hope you all have a great year, and we can't wait to see who wins next year.
Hey, I'd just add something real quick before everybody goes. And I don't know if Jeff emphasized this or not, but you know, hopefully everybody will be inspired to enter the award competition next year. And I think this will be an interesting year because we're all going to have interesting stories to share about our own programs, about how we tried to meet the challenges of dealing with the pandemic. And that goes for the fundraising award too. So you know, hopefully everybody will enter those competitions for next year. So thanks, Purdue. You guys did a great job.